96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network. Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Friday, December 10th, and it's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is C.A. Newry, and I shall be your host for the day. As we have a continued discussion about diabetes. As most of you know, I am going to this diabetes journey, trying to get myself in order. But I want to tell a story about what happened to me again while I was in the hospital. Right? Most of you know that while I was in the hospital, my sugar count was 1860, one of the record counts, like high, stark, and scary, right? And whilst I was in the hospital, a local DJ was in the hospital too, right? But his numbers was not as high as mine was. And I said, man, if I'm going to be all right, you can be all right. Things can be all right. We straight. We just need to take our medication and live better, you know? But when, at the end of his tenure in the hospital, they had to amputate his foot. And I said, but your numbers wasn't as high as mine. What you mean they had to amputate your foot? And I'm saying, so when I got this call to get a specialist, right? I have Dr. Victor Horsley with me, who's the president of the president of the Academy of Minimal. He works with Caribbean LEAP Initiative, which is diabetic lower extremity amputation prevention. That's what LEAP stands for. And I realized that his practice, what he concentrates on, is ensuring that people who live in the Caribbean don't have their foot amputated. And I said, wait, with diabetes, you have the risk of having limbs taken off in order to save your life. Gangrene sets in. You're unable to feel certain things, right? But we diabetics tend to lose sensation, that we don't even feel no pain. These things come sneak upon us, and then all you hear from the doctor is, we got a cut, right? And I said, man, no, I need you to come on because I don't want my foot taken off, right? So I want to have this conversation to avoid my foot being taken off, my limbs being lost, right? To be moved into physically challenged, right? So I brought in Dr. Horsley, who works in the Bahamas now. He works out of a local clinic here. And I wanted to understand exactly what causes this. But without further ado, I just want to get people to understand who you are. So I just want to go over your bio. Go ahead and tell me who you are and how you get to the Bahamas.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Pull the mic
a little closer here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm a consultant with Foot and Ankle International. I'm retired, and they're trying to drag me out of retirement. And reluctantly, I'm considering at least semi-retirement. Now that I'm here, I consult in with Dr. Danny Johnson, and he has a great initiative, amputation rate in the Caribbean, because let's say the world amputation rate is about 1/2 or 0.5% of the diabetics. So of all the diabetics in the United States, it's a guarantee that of the number of diabetics, let's say 350,000 or 3.5 million, whatever the number is, there's going to be a guarantee that 0.5% will lose a limb. It might be a big toe, it might be a baby toe, it might be half a foot, it might be below or above the knee. In the Caribbean, which is shocking to me when I found out, the percentage is 1%.
It's double.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's an alarming rate, and it's getting worse. So as much as Dr. Johnson has done in the past 20 years, he's been in practice and in politics, back out, it's still elevated. We have Dr. Mitchell here, Dr. Kemp. There's another, Dr. Knowles, I think she's recent arrival here. But we need help. So what I do now as a consultant is I train our medical doctors how to recognize these foot problems. When you were in the hospital, did anyone come around and give you a foot exam when your sugar was
They
up?
did.
Excellent.
And prick and massage and ask me if I feel this and whatever it is. And my foot seemed okay.
Right.
And they said, well, you can't walk barefoot anymore. Wear socks, wear shoes and stuff like that. And they warn you that if you see a cut and you don't feel it, come back to them. But that's what I want to talk about, right? What causes a person with diabetic to have their feet, extremities amputated? What causes that?
Oh, what can cause it is, and the scientific term is hyperosmolarity or high blood sugar. It seems to be the culprit. And then something simple as a pedicure can be the tipping point.
It should mean a pedicure could be a tipping point.
Right. They say, I was on the Zoom last night with Dr. Monique Mitchell. She's a podiatrist in Palmdale, all around. And she had a Dr. Williams on and a Dr. Crystal Woodside. And they're doctors in foot and nail care, estheticians. And she was just saying, when you're diabetic, don't have anything sharp. So if it's your nails, let them use the file for your nails. Don't cut around the cuticles. Watch when they pull the blade out when you're diabetic. And if there is a cut, you have to be very made aware of it by the person doing the pedicure, and then they have to send you or make that referral. So the problem with the diabetic amputation thing is the fact that sensory disorders or polyneuropathy. I had a shirt printed up called Got Polyneuropathy. And polyneuropathy is the term that's given when the longest nerves in the body are the nerves that go from the spine. We know everything originates in the brain. It goes down the spine and backbone, and then nerves come out. So a nerve from the spine to the heart is not as long as a nerve from the spine to the toes or to the fingertips. And these long nerves are most affected with what they call neurodegeneration or breakdown of that nerve. And a lot of people aren't taking the proper supplements. They're taking vitamin B, but vitamin B is water soluble as well as vitamin C. Mm-hmm. And when you take a lot of vitamin B, and there's an excessive thirst a lot of times with the diabetic patient, they urinate all the vitamin B out, so it never really gets where it's going, and the nerve degeneration continues. Mm-hmm. So if we can stop this nerve degeneration with something as simple as a fat-soluble vitamin B, it's called benfotiamine. It's a synthetic vitamin B1, and it's from Realm Labs in a package called New Remedy Plus. This is vitamin B1, which is the synthetic form called benfotiamine, which is now fat-soluble. Fat is the first go-to product for our body. Fat absorption goes before sugar absorption in our body because our body fat is just a wonderful product that's in our body, hopefully when we don't have too much of it. And it holds energy, it stores the mitochondria that helps to rebuild the body. The fat is very useful in helping the body to regenerate. So this is now lipid soluble. It's carried through when you take it with meals with the fat, and it gets to the mitochondria, which are the powerhouses of the cells. The mitochondria produce what they call ATPs.
And Dr. Hartley, I see that you're talking care. Mm-hmm. What can you do to make sure amputated, have a limb amputated?
Exactly.
But my listening audience are concerned on are the signs that they should be looking for. Us diabetics, right?
Right.
We come out of the hospital, we embrace our regimen, right? You hear the warning, say, well, this is what you got to do as you're living, right? And you think everything is okay, right? And you're going about your life, your sugar count isn't that high or it's moderate.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you find yourself in the hospital again and the doctor saying they got a cut.
Correct.
I want to know what happened to cause that. That's not normal. You're feeling okay, and all of a sudden they say they got to cut off your foot.
And you're looking okay as well as feeling okay. I could never in a million years pass you and say, now that brother might be diabetic. Never. When I was in East St. Louis, Illinois, and I told people I was visiting the Caribbean, specifically Jamaica or Nassau, I was telling them about the alarming amputation rate and the alarming cancer rate, etc. And they were just shocked in East St. Louis. The people in the operating room with me, they said, everyone looks so strong, so well kept, so beautiful. I said, yeah, but you need to follow those people home. And when you get home, you're going to find sensory disorders. You're going to find that hyperosmolarity or increased blood sugar is causing a big problem. So you mentioned prevention. How do we prevent it? I think every amputation is costing the government about $100,000. And in the United States, it's about $150,000. I don't know if the prices are higher, but I'm sure that an amputation isn't more valuable, but it is more costly in the U.S. And if every diabetic, maybe who is diagnosed by yearly, if they would be assigned a foot care doctor, a medical doctor, family practice, general practitioner, or an endocrinologist who knows about feet, they do not teach feet in medical school, period. There's 400, 500, 600 medical schools in the world, maybe 800, including Europe. There's a bunch of medical schools. There's only 11 podiatric medical schools where you learn all of your medicine. You learn about heart function, kidney function, etc., but you specialize in feet. So since there is no education in the medical school about feet, when you go to see your medical doctor, most of the doctors never even take people's shoes off, their patients' shoes off. And in that shoe, the patient's sitting there smiling happy with an ingrown toenail that's pus and infected, sitting there with a gangrenous toe or a black toe, and or you look between the toes, there are cracks, there's pus coming out. You look on the bottom of the foot, and there are actually ulcerations on the bottom of the foot, and they don't even know about it. That's the problem.
And doctor, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take off my shoes right now.
Yes, sir.
Right? And not just for entertainment, right? Because
Right.
you get me concerned.
Right.
You saying Blackfoot and gangrene and calling all these words, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to know, what should I look for? And why you say it, I'm going to look at my
Okay.
feet just to see if any of what you described is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Go ahead.
And what we look for on the first visit is called a 60-second diabetic foot exam. And you can look that up on YouTube, as far as the audience goes, 60-second diabetic foot exam. And during that exam, you'll be checking the skin condition to see if there's any cracking or fissuring, see if there are any wounds from rubbing, red spots. You'll be checking muscle strength. You'll be checking the circulation to the foot. So with diabetic, you may have already had some pre-existing conditions like, let's say, a thick toenail. A thick toenail sometimes is 1/3 the thickness of the toe. And toenails are rather thin. They're like 1 millimeter. And when the toenail is 5, 6, 7 millimeters thick, and you put that shoe on, that's back pressure. And retrograde pressure causes infection under the nail and under the bottom of the toe. Just something simple. And the main problem is they don't feel it. Our diabetic population loses the ability, and it's like a disconnection. For example, if someone has a stroke, they're disconnected from one side of their body. They have to move their arm, they have to walk a different way, but they're actually disconnected. And from a study that was done, they asked stroke victims to draw themselves, and they only drew half a person. Fast forward to sensory loss, from your belly button down, this sensory disorder, the polyneuropathy or the neurodegeneration, is such that you are disconnected from your brain, the lower extremity. So even though you're walking, even though the balance is off from the sensory condition, you're not assured, things starting to change now, but the brain doesn't know that there even is a lower extremity. So if a diabetic was walking barefoot, steps on glass, walks on a super hot asphalt, let me just run out to the car right quick and run back, I'm barefoot. They can burn all the skin on the bottom of their feet and not feel it and not know.
Don't feel it.
Don't feel
know.
a thing. And while they come in, they're like, "What's this red stuff on the floor? The housekeeper must be missing. She's not cleaning properly. He is not cleaning properly." It turns out on the bottom of the foot or between the toes that they're totally unaware of. when we feel an injury, we normally take care of it right away.
Yes.
But if it festers, if it sits around, like a raisin in the sun, so to speak, if it sits around, it gets worse. It goes from blood to a clear drainage to a pus-like drainage, yellowish exudate. And one patient, in fact, was telling me, this was in East St. Louis, Illinois. He said, I thought it was a dead mouse in the closet. I kept smelling something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was his foot.
Rotten.
Rotting. There was another patient came in, and she said, this place smells awful. This is a Foot and Ankle International, and we have great housekeeping there. Ma'am, that's your father's foot that's smelling like that. So the first investment I make when I'm new at a clinic or when I'm consulting is deodorant spray for the room, aerosol. Like they have that new car spray, it's in a little bottle, and you just, well, I spray it in the room, I spray it around the clinic, because I don't feel like smelling that. But it's almost like being a coroner. When you go to a murder scene and the body's been laying there for a week, it smells awful.
So one of the signs is your foot might smell.
It smell.
Right? And then you have this sensory disorder.
Sensory disorder.
And so you would recommend that a diabetic, someone who has been diagnosed, right, have feet inspection regularly?
Right. As soon as a medical doctor tells you you're diabetic, that medical doctor should do the 60-second foot exam. Mm-hmm. If they don't know it, then they need to send you somewhere to someone who knows about the 60-second foot exam. And during the exam, you're assigned a number, let's say from 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. 1, you're good, then you need immediate attention. So what Dr. Danny Johnson has come up with is the concept of Foot Care RX, is the red light, yellow light, green light referral. Some people you refer, it might be like yourself. Take a look at your foot, the nails are clear, between the toes are clean, no open areas, no broken skin, no fissuring, no hard cracked heels that lead to fissuring and amputation. And when you get your 60-second foot exam and you get the proper shoe and you get the proper medication to help those nerves regenerate, because it's neurodegeneration. If you can regenerate those nerves, which can occur with vitamin B. Now, most of us are vitamin B deficient. Why? Because vitamin B used to be in our everything. It was in our water when we were drinking well water, maybe in Long Island or Exuma. All they had were wells. I'm in New Jersey where I grew up. We had well water. And then it was plenty of vitamins. It's the bacteria. Some people say that the film on your teeth in the morning is rich in vitamin B because it comes from bacteria. Without the proper bacteria in our water, with the fluoride, the chlorine, the bleach that we use in our laundry and the soaps, we kill the bacteria, so our water is just liquid. It's no longer rich in vitamin B, and we are low in vitamin B. When we are low in vitamin B1, which is thiamine, then that's a big problem. A lot of disorders are associated in the human body with vitamin B1, vitamin B12. There's plenty of vitamin Bs, B1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 12, 19. There's plenty of vitamin Bs. But the ones we're focusing in are vitamin B1, which is thiamine, and vitamin B12, which is cyano or methylcobalamin.
Costly right now, we're talking about foot care, diabetic care, avoiding amputees. You mentioned that the amputee level for the Caribbean is double the rate for Europe and the United States. So we're talking and exploring that, like what is happening, despite we have basically near free health care at Princess Margaret Hospital and such like that. But I see we have a caller coming in right now, but I'm going to patch the caller through so they can interact with you. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
A pleasure. Good morning, Dr. Newry.
Hi, Dr. Newry. I'm doing well.
Okay. Doctor, who is there?
It's Dr. Horsley.
That's about the foot center.
That's correct.
Okay, with Daddy. Yeah, I was told one time ago also in regards to the feet, and I've not ever heard doctors talk about it, but they mentioned to me, I think when I was going through high school, about also there's atmospheric pressure that sits on all of our shoulders every day, some 400 pounds of atmospheric pressure.
400 pounds of pressure per square inch. You're exactly right.
And with this also, a lot of people are not aware of when that what we refer to mostly as gravity. What that we're not aware of, that the first part of your body that touches the earth in any way is your feet.
Heel contact.
We always think about our head as everything, which is the one which is least affected by the atmospheric pressure. Our feet is connected to the ground, and that's where all the pressure that ricochets through the body comes from the bottom of the feet. The next place is in an axis is your ankles, then your knee joint. We're talking about the joints now, and then your hip joint.
Right.
And you find out that anytime you get an injury below the spine and starting from the hip, those are injuries to ever get away from.
Correct. Absolutely.
You ever know that, Mr. Newry?
No,
You get a hip joint problem, you get a knee problem, an ankle problem. Take years for those things to heal if you don't relax properly and exercise properly. They will be for you for the rest of your life. There's also one more injury. If you get a neck injury below the fourth and the fifth vertebrae, that will mess you for the rest of your life when it comes to back problem. Have a good day.
Oh,
Thank you very much, Dr. Sparky. I appreciate your commentary just now.
excellent.
You mentioned ulcers. I know ulcers is something for the stomach. And you say something about this leg ulcers, feet ulcers. And I said, but I know what ulcers is. That's when it grows inside the stomach.
Right.
So I want to know more about that.
Well, there are three types of ulcers, maybe four, that we keep an eye out for on the lower extremity. Type 1 is the DFU, diabetic foot ulceration. Now, another is the PU, the pressure ulcer. And then a third one would be the VSU, venous stasis ulceration. So the pressure ulcer that causes on the bottom, that occurs on the bottom of the foot, and when that's with every step, 4 to 5 times our body weight is expressed on the bottom of our foot. Mm-hmm. So if you weigh 200 pounds, at mid-step, your foot is experiencing almost 800 pounds of pressure as we're walking. But walking is so fluid that it's a rolling of 400 to 800 extra pounds of pressure. And that's just the gravity that doctor referred to when they called. So these ulcerations, if you catch them early, they're easier. So they might be a full thickness or a partial thickness ulceration. There's an epidermis and there's a dermis. Epidermis is the top part of your skin, like a cornified layer, but so if it just involves the top of the skin, it's split thickness. If it goes deeper in, then it's full thickness, and when it goes deeper, it goes into the muscle, and it can go down to the bone, and when it goes down to the bone, you have osteomyelitis, and that either has to be treated, curettage, which is scraped out, packed with antibiotic beads, or the bone has to be removed, which is an amputation process. So these ulcerations, they're very sneaky. We have them. So I was thinking possibly with every new diabetic, they need to be assigned new remedy, because there's prediabetes, and in prediabetes, which is what you are before they tell you you're diabetic. Mm-hmm. So you're just as well you were diabetic long before they told you your sugar was 1,800. Mm-hmm. And that's called prediabetes. And during prediabetes, we experience polyneuropathy or sensory loss. And then if you combine that with a very classic artery, you get arteriosclerosis, you get hardening of the arteries. A lot of our diabetics have coronary problems where they have to have a bypass in their heart because the arteries get clogged, they get thick, they get hard. The arteries in the legs. You can take an x-ray of the foot sometimes with some of our diabetics, and you should only see the bones because it's an x-ray. There are times when we see not only the bones, but we actually see the blood vessels coursing through the foot because they're lined with calcium. And when they're lined with calcium, those arteries are hard. And it's hard for the blood to not only to move through them, which it can do that, but they don't stop blood. It's key spots, key muscles, key joints, key areas that the foot needs the oxygen that the blood is bringing, because the artery is too hard and the oxygen no longer penetrates or perfuses through the artery wall into the soft tissue. And when you're not getting the proper blood flow, so you have to get your what they call a Doppler, a smart Doppler. It can tell you your tissue perfusion, how much blood is coming down to the toe, how much blood is coming.
Do you have a machine that does that?
They do. It's called a smart Doppler. And Dr. Johnson has one of those at Foot and Ankle International, and Dr. Mitchell might have one also.
I want to stop you there, right?
Or Dr. Kemp.
When I was diagnosed and come out of the hospital, right, I got assigned an internist besides the nutritionist and
Right.
whatever it is, right? And they give me one or two equipments. One was to take the glucose count, right? The blood
Right.
pressure machine, whatever it is. And now we're talking foot
glucometer.
care, right?
Right.
Is there any kind of machine I can take home?
No, there's really no take-home machine per se. The best thing to take home would be a mirror.
A mirror.
On the floor, prop it up against the wall, take your shoe off, and look at the bottom of your foot, because diabetics never look at the bottom. And you might see a callus, you might see an open wound, you might see fissuring or cracking, there might be some bleeding, but you have to do a thorough foot inspection. So there's a lot of pressure ulcers on the bottom of the foot. And what we do at Foot and Ankle International, we train that internist. We train that family medicine because they were not trained in medical school nor their residency program about amputation prevention, especially of our diabetics. Or they weren't trained about polyneuropathy. Excellent physicians too, but they just weren't trained. So it's just something you don't look for because you weren't trained to look for it.
And I don't want your help with this because I know you mentioned it earlier, but it just came to me. Every so often I have ingrown
Yes.
toenails in
Yes, sir.
my big toe, right? And now you start warning me because sometimes I get pussy, sometimes.
Yes.
And I want you to give me some advice now because I'm kind of scared. Because I just get my nail clipper and I dig inside
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I dig inside and
Classic.
clip that out, right?
Right.
And now you tell me that can perhaps impact me where I get a wound that kind of heal. So how do I take care of myself being a diabetic and have ingrown toenails? What do you recommend?
I would recommend, if not what we've spoken about with the medical care, seeing a podiatrist or a properly trained family physician. I would also recommend others who are properly trained, like Dr. Williams, who spoke on Dr. Mitchell's Zoom last night, Dr. Woodside, and Tiffany McPhee. What they do is not only do they know exactly how to take care of that ingrown nail, how to get it out for you, they're right there. And we're the furthest away from our feet. And some people have a girth. They have a big tummy, and they can't get to their feet. So they have an ingrown. They go down there and yank the nail out instead of properly trim it. But I'd recommend going to get a medi-pedi by someone who's trained professionally, and they know the parameters and how far to go. And a lot of times I get a lot of referrals from our pedicurists.
I guess I was going to ask that too.
right.
I mean, I understand that you work for a clinic, and the goal is to make sure the client comes to a trained professional. We call it
Podiatrist.
podiatrist. But what about the manicurists and the pedicurists? Is there any kind of class for them to learn or some sort?
Yes, they have doctorate degrees in being a pedicurist or an esthetician. So they're well trained, and what they're trained in is signs to recognize, like polyneuropathy. So I get a lot of referrals coming to get Newry Plus, and this is also available at Prescription Parlor, Friendly Pharmacy, all around town, Curry Pharmacy, Infinity
We can talk
Pharmacy.
about that right after the break. We can talk because I want to know what these stockings and these compressed
support
stockings and
hose.
stuff like
Yes,
that.
sir. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
but we're going to take a quick break here. This is Guardian Radio in the AM with C.A. Newry. Of course, we're talking to Dr. Victor Horsley, who is basically, not even say volunteering, making sure that his services is helping Bahamians while he's here, especially people inside the Caribbean. But we'll go in more detail about that on the next side of the break. We'll be right back.
With so much going on in the world today, only accepting cash at your business can be risky. Let Fidelity offer you and your customers safety, convenience, and the flexibility of a fixed or mobile terminal. Take it with you, on the move and on the go, because business should never stop. For more details, speak to one of our business development officers at 356-7764 in Nassau or 352-6676 in Freeport. Visit our website at fidelitygroup.com or visit us at any of our branches.
Boy, you know what going down tomorrow?
Nobody, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Boy, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know Junior don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody. I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Boy, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, how many boys coming for me next?
Alright, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stop, you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So what are the boy?
All you gotta do is call them or you text them through the Crack Crime Bahamas app and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info? And when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the calls go directly to Miami and they don't ask nothing about you. Then if you get the pen from them and they can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
Sarah, how are you doing?
Okay.
Are you sure? I noticed you've been down lately.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I can't really put into words how I'm feeling, but I know I don't feel like myself sometimes. There's just so much going on in my life. School, friends, sports. Sometimes I worry about different things and feel stressed.
I'm glad you're talking to me. And it's okay to talk about your feeling. It's normal to feel changes depending upon what's going on around you.
Yeah?
Of course. All of us should be concerned with our mental health and our well-being. Good mental health means that we can cope with our everyday stresses. You can talk to me anytime when you feel like it.
Okay. Make sure that they check and talk more often and take things from there.
Message is brought to you by PAHO WHO and the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio. Horsley here with me, and we're talking about foot care. And of course, he brought a number of props. You know, he brought some special shoes. They don't look like Jordans. And he's promoting this particular medication. And I was mentioning on the break to the doctor that every so often my feet tingles, some numbness, right? And I was asking him, is there anything to deal with that, right? Or when I speak to my internist, should I mention such? But as a foot specialist, right? I want you to recommend what type of shoes we should be wearing, and also what is this? Well, let me see what I wrote down. Compression stockings. What is it good for?
Well, it's funny you mentioned these symptoms to 98% of medical doctors, and they'll put you on 3 medications: Lyrica, Cymbalta, or gabapentin. And these are antidepressants and anti-epileptic medications. Sure, they help the tingling feel a little better, but you want to get better. You don't want to just feel better. You want to feel better because you're getting better. Those 3 medications do absolutely nothing to improve nerve function. Lyrica, Cymbalta, and gabapentin, the most widely used medications on the market for this condition. And they're used off-label because they were used for seizures or antidepressants, Elavil.
And you've been touring the Bahamas to various pharmacies now, explaining this new medication.
Right. Freeport, we have some pharmacies in Freeport. And the big thing about the shoes is not just that it's made custom to the foot, we measure the foot in a certain way, but it's the insole, which is pressure relief.
Yeah.
You put it in the microwave, heat it, and then if you have a callus here, you have people stand on it, and it leaves a little dent where the callus is. Well, that alleviates the pressure.
Okay.
And you're supposed to change these insoles at least 2 additional times So, or once every 4 months, you should have new insoles.
So shoes like that, like where do they sell them to the drugstores, or I have to go to a specialist?
Well, you can get them at 2 drugstores right now. A 101 Pharmacy, it's on Southeast Street, and there's 2 or 3 others around. And then 101 has opened a new pharmacy in Freeport called Island Care. And
so it can be purchased here locally.
you can get the shoes right here. You get measured for these shoes. You get fitted properly. And as soon as you find out you're diabetic, you instantly start finding out about your feet and what it takes to prevent amputation. Because we have to lower the amputation rate at least back to the crazy 0.5% of all. That's still very high. But we had to lower that 1% plus back down to 0.5% somehow, some way. And sitting around just waiting for it to happen ain't going to happen. It will get worse and worse and worse. So there's a catalog, and these shoes, they have work shoes. They have, if you're diabetic, which a lot of our cooks and chefs and waiters and people on there, construction people.
And people who stand on their feet all day.
All day. Some of our security, they stand all day. And if you're diabetic, you need pressure relief because your foot won't tell you it's hurting. Your foot won't make a mention. And you have to be very careful of the type of pressure that's on the bottom of your feet, because that's what leads to those pressure ulcerations.
So what's a compressed stocking? We didn't go there.
And a lot of persons have swelling of the ankles and the legs. Sometimes it's from something simple like alcohol. And you're out, when you left Philadelphia to come to the Bahamas, and you wake up drinking, and you drink all the way on the plane, and you drink all the way back, and your ankles are so something simple as swelling. Standing can cause swelling, infection, a lot of problems. So compression stockings will alleviate the swelling. They will put pressure. The right type of pressure comes in various strengths, but the most popular is 20 to 30 millimeters of mercury pressure. And you get these socks on, and they go up to below the knee, or you get a pair above the knee. And they even make pantyhose type of compression stockings. And it helps the venous return. It helps the blood back to the heart. And by helping the blood back to the heart, then you don't get pooling. And pooling is when you get that awful swelling. And you look down, and it looks like biscuits with yeast coming out the shoe. Your skin is just bubbling over the shoe. It's just your ankles are just swollen, hanging over. So they have a variety of compression stockings. They're very difficult to put on. You have to go to YouTube to find out how to put them on. And then they have a mechanical device called a donner, D-O-N-N-E-R. You can put the sock on this donner, and I had one for my dad, but he had venous insufficiency, or they call CVI, chronic venous insufficiency. And that means the blood's just not getting back up to the heart. It's getting down to the foot, but it's not getting back up to the heart properly. And he would load his compression sock on this device. He would have it on without putting holes or runs in that compression sock in about 5 seconds. Otherwise, if you're trying to put a compression stocking on, like you would put a regular sock on, it might take you forever to put it on. And then people stop wearing it, then they get the swelling, leads to a shoe that's too small. And how would you know a shoe is too small? Because normally, this shoe is hurting me, it's too tight. But if you have sensory disorders, you don't know the shoe is too small. Or let's say without the swelling, maybe in a college and high school you were a size 8, but now that you've had some babies, or you've had you're older in life, your feet get bigger as you get older. And people don't know it. So when you have sensory disorders, you're wearing a too small shoe, size 8 shoe, and it's a size 10 foot. That causes gangrene of the toes. That causes a big problem. So wearing a too small shoe is like putting a $5 hat on a nickel head, I always say. You have to make sure the shoe fits properly. So there should be a program. There is a program in the U.S. It started out really nice, and it was to make sure everyone every new diabetic, every established diabetic got the 60-second exam, got a pair of shoes. But then it was through the insurance system called Medicare in the U.S., and then they started, if there was fraud, and then every doctor was under investigation. So a lot of doctors like myself gave up on the program. I don't want to join a program where there's watchdogs and to make sure, and they come into your office the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, the Office of Inspector General, they're coming through your office, almost kicking your door down over a pair of shoes to make sure that Medicare, you're not giving these shoes to the wrong diabetic patient. So here in the Bahamas, if we can identify which patients are new diabetics, get them into the educational program, which would include diet, which include how to monitor your blood sugar, which include it's something as simple as calibration of your glucometer. Unfortunately, I had a lady and her glucometer was metric and not in U.S. standards. And she kept thinking her blood sugar was low because maybe the temperature, if it's 28 degrees, that might be 90 degrees or something, you know. Well, her glucometer kept saying, let's say, 28, where her blood sugar was 90. And she said, oh, that's too low. So she would start eating sugar.
Oh, gosh.
And she wound up with an amputation because of too much sugar in her system. And it was because the glucometer was set on metric and not U.S. standards.
And Dr. Horsley, I want to go back a bit, right? Bahamian men hate to go to the hospital.
Yes, sir.
That's just regular. We just ain't going. We ain't got no
drag 'em.
right? You got to drag them, right? And I'm speaking from a diabetic point of view, and we're talking about foot care here specifically, right? I'm picturing like you think you're okay. Your sugar levels you're monitoring. I'm talking from a male's point of view, and you didn't know that you have any kind of sensory disorder. But you look at your feet every so often, right?
Right.
And I'm talking about gangrene. I want to know like that first sign, like when you say, "My gosh, I need to go to the foot doctor now. Something is wrong with my feet." Besides not feeling it. Like what sign that can you look at the foot bottom and say, hey, I need to go now?
Well, the obvious sign of what you're seeing is when you have your feet propped up and a family member walked by and said, did you know you have a hole in your foot? And they didn't know. But way before that, if you could get them into the proper shoe, the prevention. So the best thing for gangrene, because it's preventable, we have to have someone monitor the feet, and they're going to their medical doctors, but the medical doctors don't know foot exam. Now, not all of them. There are some excellent medical doctors. All of them are excellent, I must say, but they're not trained in foot and leg and lower extremity biomechanics and amputation prevention. And that's what we do at Foot and Ankle International. That's what brought me here. So we've had about almost 20 doctors now. They finished UWI or Cuba Medical School. They returned home. They're doing their third year residency. They're real doctors. They come through Foot and Ankle International, and it just amazes me where they think they're coming through to learn how to clip toenails. That's the last thing I do is clip a toenail. I'll clip a toe off before I clip a toenail because we teach the medical doctors the early signs of gangrene, how to prevent an ingrown nail if you don't feel it, if it's not taken care of properly. Can lead to infection. That infection can go right to the bone, and that leads to an amputation just from a simple ingrowing nail.
And we have enough issues here in the Bahamas.
Glad
right?
you mentioned that.
And I am concerned that as they take chemo, that it impacts, especially if you're diabetic and you're taking chemo.
Yes, sir. When it's a combination problem. Yes, sir.
Like, and again, for foot care, what happens?
Yeah, that's really devastating. And I had a patient recently who had mentioned, my friend has diabetes and is undergoing chemo. They can't sleep at night. Tingling, burning pain. As soon as you get off your feet, they almost like they catch fire. And some people have to sleep in the bed with the feet hanging over the edge of the bed at the knee just to try to get some relief from this problem. So chemo, radiation, it all affects the nerves. And I tell our cancer patients, don't just buy any supplement, get this supplement.
What's the name of that again?
This is called New Remedy Plus. It has the vitamin B1 and the B12. But always, always check with your physician before you take anything that's recommended by a friend or even a doctor. And oftentimes, and I've always, when I start my patients on new medications, And I always send a note to their family physician. I say, look, and sometimes I'll get a note back. Oh, did you know I'm already giving this patient a blood thinner, and we shouldn't have this patient on that? Thank you. That's why I sent you this note. I'm letting you know, boss, you're taking care of this patient. I'm just helping to keep them walking and keep their feet on.
Yes.
And
So you work in tandem with
yes,
with
we
medical
do.
doctors.
We
in turn.
must work with the medical doctors, so it's not two separate things. Going to the podiatrist and going to the doctor. We all must work together for the benefit of the patient.
I see you have another caller here. I want to engage you. Producer, patch that caller through, please. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Hey.
all is well, Newry?
Yeah, man. How you doing, man?
Man, everything good, man. Listen, I'm listening to you all, right? I want to find out something from the doctor. My fiance, right, she diabetic. Now, she just treat everything good with her body and everything, right? But now, about 2 days ago, she had a cut. What was healing up to the bottom of her foot. It was healing up, but she told me yesterday it opened back up, and she didn't have no more of the ointment. What she just used cause it to heal, right? I trying to find if there's something other than this ointment which she just used that she could use to close up that wound.
That's one of the best questions of the day, and you've asked some excellent ones, Cecil. This question about what to use on a wound, they have products anywhere from what we all know called triple antibiotic ointment. Your brother mentioned ointments. There's Bactroban. There's a variety of ointments we can use on wounds. But some of our diabetic wounds, because of the high blood sugar, diabetics are slow to heal. And if they have that arterial disease, the oxygen's not coming, which causes angiogenesis or new blood vessels to form in the foot. So wound care products is a whole new science. Wound care products, it's something as simple as Santal. When the wound is infected and dirty, you put Santal in, or a new gel, and it debrides or it cleans out only bad. That's the good tissue. And then they have products made for collagen, or from collagen, and it's a collagen powder. And it's a complex collagen molecule that is intertwined and prepared just properly. So when it comes in contact with the wound, it causes new generation of cells, and it causes that wound to start closing. So there's a variety. There's a sponge-like product called Polymem. You put that on, it has special enzymes in it, and it makes the wound heal. Now, most people don't need special products, just a little bit of ointment and away they go.
I can go to a pharmacist and mention this, and they can recommend, right?
That's why I'm hitting all the pharmacists, because the pharmacist is the go-to person.
Good.
Everyone goes and asks the pharmacist, well, look, I'm picking up this metformin. Why does Dr. Horsley say that metformin is one of the gold standards of diabetic treatment, but it causes a decrease of vitamin B uptake? Normally, our vitamin B uptake is 15%. When you're taking a patient, it drops down to 5%, and we need to increase that vitamin B to make her wound heal and all other wounds heal. So I'd recommend she see a podiatrist or a wound care specialist. And I don't know how many wound care specialists there are in Nassau, but I know we at Foot and Ankle International are some of the leading wound care specialists with some of the top products available.
Okay, I have another caller here. Producer, patch the caller through.
Hey, Newry.
Hey, go ahead.
Newry.
Go ahead.
I didn't get a drop call. I didn't really call the drop.
Okay. But
So I try and what he said was good for.
yes, he gave a list of things, and what I'll do is I'll send you back the link so you can hear all of that. So you can hear that.
Okay, now one more thing I want to ask him then. That's concerning that. So you let me know what that is all about.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing I'd like to know, Doc. Okay, I have on my left foot, to the bottom of my left foot, it's like more numb. I'm not diabetic, but this, and in my fingers. So I was saying, I think it's something to do with my nerves.
Yes. Yes.
You have something you could prescribe for me.
I'll let him respond to that right now. Okay. Good. That last caller, hang up. Good. Okay. Anyway, I also when you asked that, let me answer this call so I can get this last call so the doctor can respond to both. Go ahead, caller.
Good morning, CA and the doctor.
Yeah, make it quick. We're ending any minute now.
What about the like my mother had an American doctor, and like her arch, he made it quite clear her arch is how you walk. So you how to walk the arch. Some people have a flat arch. Some people arches fall. Do you prescribe anything for your arch here?
Let me respond. And Doc, you have the last few minutes, so go ahead and answer both questions there.
I was thinking about the last question with the arch. Some people have a high arch sitting and they stand up, their arch collapses. That's called hyperpronation. Hyperpronation in the diabetic foot the Charcot foot is when it's a Chopart joint or the mid-tarsal joint and the foot can completely collapse. Also, with the diabetic foot, the first question was about nerve conditions. There are 150 reasons why anyone can have sensory disorders. One of them being alcohol, which is a major cause. Diabetes is another cause. Epstein-Barr virus is another. Many different types and different reasons.
And I want to stop you there. How can people get in contact with you?
Foot and Ankle International, 322-5402.
Good.
That's how they find me.
Good. I thank you very much for joining me, and I really appreciate the conversation. This has been Guardian Radio in the AM with C.A. Newry, and have a wonderful weekend.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.